shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did?
Whoopi thinks that's pretty much how black folks are treated in America. You absolute disgrace of a human being, Whoopi, to show absolutely no regard for the Iranian women who risk their lives to challenge the Islamist government, to minimize their struggle and compare it to your fevered dreams about oppression in America in 2025.
Bill Maher is once again calling out the Democrats, this time for promoting policies that, according to him, cost them big in last November's elections. It's starting to feel like a pattern, pushing an agenda wrapped in virtue, signaling in identity politics, something Maher calls outdated and alienating. So he dropped a set of truth bombs that are sure to send shockwaves through the party. If you're into sharp political commentary, hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. And as usual, where there's controversy, there's the view. With Whoopi Goldberg leading the charge, the panel reacted strongly, no surprise there. Maher's critique hit a nerve, and they weren't happy about it. Check this out.
In the Wall Street Journal claims that the shift to the right in this election reveals that Americans view themselves as belonging to a particular economic class more than their race and gender. And Bill Maher said it's not the only thing Democrats got wrong. Take a look.
Someone must tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did?
Bill Maher's sharp critique sent parts of the progressive camp into full damage control mode. You could practically hear the reactions nationwide. The fact that someone like Maher, an old-school liberal, is the one challenging their sacred talking points really shook things up. They didn't see it coming, and they definitely didn't take it well. Over on The View, Whoopi Goldberg and the panel weren't about to let it slide. They fired back with a familiar blend of dramatic pushback and surface-level outrage. But hey, that's what happens when you trade substance for sound bites. Take a look.
Racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. They don't want your pity. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
You can see why so many political analysts are now predicting serious trouble ahead for the Democrats. It's statements like these that leave voters frustrated. Bill Maher didn't miss the mark. His observations hit home. While Americans were dealing with rising inflation, a struggling border, and growing concerns about crime, what were Democratic leaders focused on? Gender policies in schools, symbolic street randomings, and debates over language on college campuses. Instead of addressing jobs, gas prices, or national security, they leaned into identity politics and cultural discourse, leaving many to wonder if they've lost touch with everyday Americans. Maher is simply holding up a mirror, and rather than confronting the reflection, party leaders seem more interested in discrediting the mirror itself. If Democrats keep choosing ideology over real-world priorities, they risk not just losing elections, but losing public trust. And as the backlash builds, the political fallout continues.
Again, I got my popcorn. I don't know why people did what they did. I see all these reasons, and so, okay, time will tell. But what do y'all think?
I know that as a country, it's very difficult for people to believe that racism and misogyny, they're just alive and well. I think that we don't want to think that about ourselves, our neighbors, our friends, but it's my lived experience tells me that it does still exist, even if your lived experience doesn't tell you that it exists. And the facts support that. I think we have a graph. If you look at there's a clear racial divide in who voted for Trump as opposed to who voted for Kamala Harris.
You can practically feel the tension in Sunny Hostin's voice as she pushes back against Bill Maher's arguments. It's the kind of defensive tone that surfaces when someone senses they're losing ground. Let's get one thing straight. Bill Maher never said racism or misogyny don't exist. Not once. His argument wasn't about denying inequality. It was about pointing out that the Democratic Party's constant framing of every issue through race, gender, and identity is turning voters away. And he's right. Instead of promoting unity, this approach often divides the electorate into narrowly defined groups. But as we've seen, critics of that strategy are frequently met with outrage, not debate. Rather than addressing Maher's points directly, Sunny shifted the focus, relying more on emotional reactions and factual rebuttals. When arguments fall short, outrage often becomes the fallback. Meanwhile, Maher doubled down, even suggesting that shows like The View may be doing more to inflame division and encourage dialogue.
Really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is a great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity. And a second good step would be, we got to do something about The View.
Maher didn't hold back. He directly challenged Democrats to take a serious look at The View, arguing that the show may be doing more harm than good for the party's public image. In his view, the panel isn't just out of touch. They're making things worse with constant virtue signaling and oversimplified takes on complex issues. Maher even gave rare credit to the New York Times for easing away from ideological extremes and moving toward a more balanced centrist approach. He expressed hope that the Democratic Party might follow that example. But The View? The hosts remain deeply rooted in their own narrative bubble, doubling down on messages that tend to alienate moderates and independent voters. It's as if the show is undermining the party's recent attempts at rebranding, pulling it back toward performative politics rather than practical solutions. Now, for those wondering why Bill Maher took aim at Whoopi Goldberg specifically, take a look at this clip where she makes a controversial comparison between the experiences of Iranian women and Black Americans in the U.S.
Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say.
Nope. Your ears aren't deceiving you. Whoopi Goldberg actually claimed that the treatment of women and LGBT individuals in Iran is on par with how they're treated here in the United States. Yes, she really said that. It's clear that Whoopi has become so entrenched in her ideological bubble that she's lost sight of reality, even when it's right in front of her. In the U.S., women have the freedom to drive, own property, vote, run for office, and express themselves openly without fear of government punishment. In Iran, women face harsh penalties for something as simple as showing their hair. LGBTQ individuals live under constant threat, with some facing brutal punishment just for existing. Yet somehow, Whoopi sees this as comparable. It's not just a flawed comparison. It's a disservice to those truly fighting against systemic oppression. This kind of false moral equivalence is exactly why more viewers are tuning The View out. Now watch as Sky News' Rita Panahi calls out Whoopi Goldberg for what many are calling her most misguided take yet.
Yes, Whoopi thinks it's the same. She thinks America and Iran are the same. The human rights abuses are the same. The fact that more than 90 million people are oppressed in Iran, and women doubly so, systematically subjugated by a brutal regime, she thinks that's the same as America. That is the modern left, folks. Dumb, dishonest, and dangerously delusional.
Absolutely. Rita Panahi said what many are thinking. A growing number of progressive voices seem increasingly disconnected from reality. They've built such a strong ideological bubble that alternative viewpoints can't get through, or worse, are outright ignored. And that's the real issue. Instead of listening to reason, facts, or even the voters they claim to represent, they double down on the same tired strategies. They confuse moral signaling with meaningful policy, even as their approval ratings slip and public trust fades. It's like they've forgotten the old saying, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. But instead of climbing out, they're digging deeper, adding lights, and calling it progress. Until there's a course correction, this pattern will continue, pulling both their party and the broader political conversation further away from solutions and deeper into division.
That's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference
is not good, whoever does it. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Not if you're black. Really? So crime happening in America, a black person killing another black person, for example, for which the perpetrator will be punished, is the same in Whoopi's warped mind as the state killing you because you're a minority, because you're gay or an infidel.
Exactly. Panahine nailed it. That's how ideological echo chambers can distort thinking. They shut down logic, critical thinking, and basic common sense. Some individuals get so wrapped up in signaling ideological purity that they lose sight of how disconnected they sound to everyone else. Here's the ironic part. They genuinely believe they're making bold, profound statements. But to most people, it just comes off as noise. Loud, dramatic, and completely detached from reality. It's like they're caught up in their own feedback loop, fueled by self-affirmation and constant outrage. Every opinion they share is packed with emotion, but light on facts. They often mistake hashtags for policy and passion for accuracy, and when someone dares to challenge their narrative, instead of engaging in real dialogue, they shut it down, labeling dissent as unacceptable. That's not progress. It's groupthink. Until they break out of this mindset, they'll keep confusing intensity for insight and alienating the very people they claim to be advocating for.
Let me be clear. The Iranian regime will hang you from a crane in the public square for crimes like blasphemy, witchcraft, homosexuality, and of course, if you dare show any dissent, if you challenge the brutal regime. Whoopi thinks that's pretty much how black folks are treated in America. You absolute disgrace of a human being, Whoopi, to show absolutely no regard for the Iranian women who risk their lives to challenge the Islamist government, to minimize their struggle and compare it to your fever dreams about oppression in America in 2025.
Whoopi Goldberg lives in the United States, a country where freedom of speech is protected by law. Here, you can openly criticize elected leaders, express dissenting opinions, and speak out without fear of imprisonment. And Whoopi has used that right freely, often voicing strong opposition to President Trump on national television without consequence. Now imagine saying something similar in a country like Iran. Dissent, there isn't a protected right. It's a serious risk. Criticizing the regime can lead to arrest, forced disappearances, or worse. Families are left without answers, and the consequences are far more severe than any public debate. To compare the freedoms enjoyed in the U.S. with the harsh realities faced by those living under authoritarian rule isn't just misleading. It downplays the very real struggles many face around the world. And that wraps up today's video. If you appreciated this honest take, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.